O song celestial. Hello, Bhagavad Gita. Let me see what comes out of me when I read thee. Wow. Yeah, I just went a bit through Wizard of Earthsea. And ate couscous. I fried green asparagus with chili, 2 little chilies, which I believe would be a nice project to plant your own chilies. You know, be it local or not. But I can see this as being a nice project. And just remember I believe it to be a falcon then, if you want to put a name to such things. Sometimes these moments, they pass so quickly. And then you have a moment of wow and all this wonder, and then you gotta push through. So as nice as it is to be always in the light, humanity has done a lot of really bad things. And it's really gotten out of hand. And it is shaking the balance of the world. And now some of us feel like there is something we should be doing, but don't know what to do because there's so much controversy. So even the people who look like they understood something, or they're like spiritual or whatever, they're just all phony. So it has always been a little bit like this. Even in ancient times, there were always people who simply mimicked other people. But today, it's become worse. Because the only thing that gets advertised is shadow, basically. I mean, the dark arts are being practiced openly. And when you come to preach the light, which you can say in a way is what I'm doing, to some degree, right, it's shining light on potential junk like the Bhagavad Gita. Anything that gets praised too much, forget it. It's not gonna give you what you need. Praised by people who put themselves, who have a label for themselves. Right? So the book, let's say, Watership Down, yeah, it has received a lot of praise, but it's not one specific group of people that praises it. In that sense, it transcends all cultism. But if you look at then the Bhagavad Gita, if you're super spiritual, you probably have to have read this. And then you're spiritual simply because you believe in spirit. And you can see that rituals are also somewhat important. But that they can also keep you trapped. So you don't cling to any idea about that's how you have to be when you're spiritual. You simply have to figure yourself out. And I am simply reluctant to praise the Bhagavad Gita because it simply lacks shadow. It's not interesting to learn from. If it isn't intimidating, if it doesn't tickle your fear a little bit, then it is worthless junk. It's just an escape. If it doesn't scare you a little bit, then it's only half true, because life is scary. And that is what we simply have to acknowledge. Life is also scary. Every time I want to go for a hike, I have to prepare myself, or else fear will render me immobile. So when I hike, I see myself doing the hike and then finishing the hike, and this is how you shine light. You shine light not by pretending something is just nice. No. You don't live your life and say it's all perfect. No, you say it's the way it is. And right now it's really imbalanced. That's the way it is. That's then neither good or bad. You know, you can say it's good for really learning balance, because now you were really imbalanced and now you can learn to be really balanced. For that it is good, you know, it's a really steep learning curve. But what's bad is it just seems so unnecessary. Right? It just seems so unnecessary. Because we could do better. There is no need to produce all this junk. But what's this junk gonna be in a million years? Nothing. You know, some weird bacteria life form will probably grow out of this. And then everything's glowing. And then we are back in Nausicaa. So to nature it doesn't really matter. But we have to live in it, and that's what bothers me. You see, that's what bothers me. That we have to live in the consequences of our actions. And that I am living in the consequences of actions of people whose actions I still feel today. And this starts with the first guy who ever gave shape to a stone and turned it into a spear or a spear. Right? It's the first arrowhead that was made, the first string of the bow that was loosened. Right? The first whatever that tried to make his life a bit more convenient. That's how it all started then. And then it just kept getting worse. I mean, what's worse? You just have to get used to it and accept it. But I think we were much better. It's just, you can see it always happening the same way. If it would all go back again, it would happen the same way again. It simply is the way it is, because we learn incredibly fast, and then someone has an idea, he brings it about, and one idea leads to another. I believe what we call overpopulation is simply then we are too smart for our own good. So sometimes you have to be a bit stupid and just live according to yeah, the way life is at the moment, in your own way still. So back in the days, I would have just walked around, probably practiced my sorcery, which I believe is what I'm doing, or channel energy or whatever, shine my light. People would have appreciated it, given me shelter, and then I would have helped them a little, worked some spells for them, just helped them a little bit in their progress, maybe taught them a little bit about healing. Yeah, and then I could have stayed in a village, or I could have moved on. Now I'm here in this village, and I feel like most of what I'm doing is kind of... I'm not really practicing this openly. But there's also a reason. So yes, I have challenged the other side a couple of times with my creations, and that makes me a haunted man. This is why for me reading A Wizard of Earthsea is clearly also a sign. To me, yeah, I can feel what he's feeling. You kind of feel hunted. I cannot stick around and live like other people because of what I've done. So I'm constantly on the move. Because, yeah, my actions haunt me. My life haunts me. I have done things that most people would never dare to do. I have spoken openly, and I have recorded hours of content where I simply criticize what is going on at the moment. I simply highlight what I believe to be truth, which is, of course, you could say a current perspective, but some things are simply the way they are. It's imbalanced, and the imbalance creates further imbalance, and that's all this is. Imbalance sticking to imbalance. And once you learn balance, people say, here he comes again. Or they say, thank God he's still alive, man. Thank God he's still alive. What would we do without him? But few people really say this. Well, they have. The last hike, like I said, was clearly very different for me. And I was being... Yeah, I wasn't always sure how to react or respond, to be honest. I walked through a village, and you have to also imagine how I looked like. I had my staff, which could just be a hiking stick, but it's a staff, and I wore my rain poncho, I wore my hat, and then I have this beard. It's like a hat with a brim all around, right? But I was shining light on the path. There came a family, and they looked a bit, Arabian, dark-skinned, a bit darker, dark complexion, how they say. Dark hair. You would probably say Arabian or something. And I was walking in my bare feet. I walked, and then the son, when I passed them, he said, "Yes, salam alaikum, or salam alaikum." And I only nodded, but I shunned them light. So this is something you can do, of course. And the boy really started cheering. I said nothing, and I walked on, and I thought, did I do good? Was this how I should respond? You hear this, you think it makes no sense, but I mean, I've been doing these things for longer already. I have realized that I can shine light. It just never happened like this, and it clearly came also from the staff. which is a really interesting thing. Because it seemed like I was being recognized. But what does he recognize? Just spirit or something? A bringer of light, a light bringer. This is what I can identify with. Light bringer, he said, Salam alaikum, and I just nodded my head in acknowledgement, and then it felt like I was letting off fireworks, in their minds. It was strange. I thought, should I have responded? Because the response to Salam alaikum is alaikum salam. But then I would have to turn around and I would have to look at him, and I feel like it would have been a bit overkill. Too much attention can also ruin something. He said it, and I just have to think of these things from the Lord of the Rings, right? Gandalf doesn't run around after children or something. He has business to do. And I was on business. The next guy who came, this was a few hundred meters later, he seemed a bit like... Yeah. It's hard to label this. I mean, I don't see really men. I see other things. Some spirit thing, whatever. But he was a man with a bit like a stomach. And I walked past his abode, and he has like a... Yeah. Like a bit like a old farmhouse with a yard or something. And chickens and stuff. And I walked past it, and he said, "Oh, a traveler. A traveling man," he said. Hiker's man. Nobody ever called me like this. And I kept on walking, and then he came rushing out of where he was, and he said, "Are you thirsty?" And when he said it, in front of my mind's eye, I saw beer. I first thought I should have just continued, but I turned around and I said that no thank you, I have my own. And then I added I said it in German, wer versagt, verkackt. Which means, if you sink into the swamp, you screw up, basically. And then I turned around and kept on walking. So I wasn't sure why I answered to the one but not to the other. And if I should have answered at all. If I should have just stayed silent. That is often what I am wondering about. But I feel most certainly that I have to react to whatever life throws at me. Without fear of consequence. I simply have to react. In some way, which is my reaction to people that are afraid of diseases is, hey, I mean, you're all bringing this about yourselves. You are unwilling to change, and you stick to sitting around and eating all that sugar and watching movies. So, if you give in to the fear, then that's your choice. But I cannot let you make me your play ball, because I have come too far for this. It seems so ridiculous that people don't realize this. It's really such child's play to be down there and every little spasm of cosmic wave, every little ripple that comes, people just shit their pants. That's the only thing they can do, right? Just freak out and shit their pants. And then try to, make themselves sleep again. So they masturbate, they take stuff like aspirin, where nobody can really tell what it does. Or paracetamol, who can really say what this does? They just stuff themselves with food. Or they just waste it in a gym or in a bouldering hall, instead of building something for themselves. So if you really want to create your own business, then you have to stop going to any kind of institution and give them your energy. Then you have to spend a lot of time on your own and learn how to channel energy into something that can help you grow as an individual. And that's what I believe. I truly believe in this, that I can make a difference in the world, but I still have to adapt to the way the world is. And at this moment, the world is really digital, which is why I can create content then. Wait, did I put something else into the couscous? Yeah, I had my tzatziki, just the rest of it. Unsalted tzatziki, just Greek-style yogurt. For 1 kilo of Greek-style yogurt, I take then... Well, I usually take out a bit of the yogurt first to make space for other things. I add 2... Yeah, okay, now we're at this again. What's a clove? You know, what's a... 1 clove? What is if you put all the cloves together? Let me check. See, now I have to use the internet, because this word always evades me. How is an entire thing of garlic called? Probably a butt of garlic. Butt full of garlic. Yeah, and now I feel the fear again, because on Saturday I have to go hiking. And that's usually the way it is, right? Fear is just also a buildup of energy. And if you do feel in your heart that you're channeling energy, then I can tell you that if you do something like I do and you go hiking, as a transformative thing, then you will probably feel like you are carrying also the burden for others. Okay. Knoblauch or Knolle. English. Okay, they say it's a garlic bulb. Well, I feel like I've never read this. Garlic bulb. Truly. But here it says a clove of garlic. Half garlic bulb, 1/2 garlic clove, eine halbe Knoblauchknolle. Okay, maybe I should just look up garlic. Garlic. So. And now I look at the Wikipedia entry. Everybody always wants to know the health benefits. Garlic allium sativum. Okay, sativa, they always talk about this with cannabis. It's supposed to be somewhat calming. It lowers your blood pressure, I have heard. is a species of bulbous, which would make sense for the garlic bulb, flowering plants in the genus Allium. Okay, Hindu Kush also made some tea. So this is the information you can give to people. You are an individual and you can never reach everyone, but some people will resonate with you. Your way of living, your way of diet. If somebody really just wants to be vegan, well, he will not follow you. But somebody who does will follow you. I said I want to live. I like roast chicken. I cannot help it. Occasionally, I will eat this. Garlic has been used for thousands of years. Okay, description. Garlic is a perennial flowering plant. Perennial. Perennial through the year. Yes, so it dies. Oh wow, can I find garlic in nature? Flowering plant that is native to Central Asia, South Asia, and northeastern Iran. It grows from a bulb with a tall, erect flowering stem that reaches up to 1 meter. The leaf blade is flat, linear, solid. So I probably have to start finding garlic here. My problem is usually winter. I'm trying to understand what I can do to survive through winter. Also, if I would take from nature, the only thing I find is that if you live in a climate like this, where there is really a winter, where there's almost nothing available anymore, then you got to eat meat. That is my really firm belief. That otherwise, how would you survive winter? The leaf blade is flat. Okay, now it's plant may produce pink to purple flowers. The bulb has a strong odor and is typically made up of 10 to 20 cloves. Okay, that's all I needed to know. Now I have a bit more information on this. It also helps in fighting depression. Why? Because of fungal overgrowth. So if you have a balanced diet, you don't have to worry about tick bites. Because when a tick bites and there's like a circular thing, what do you have to do? Eat proper, cleanse, and do something like massage so that the energy can flow off. That's what I believe you'd probably have to do with a tick bite. With a snake bite, I'm not quite sure. But you have to believe that you're gonna survive and that you're gonna heal. Wim Hof healed his foot that was literally black after running somewhere in the, was it the Antarctica? He went for a several kilometer run in shorts, practicing his method, his breathing, of course, but also channeling or whatever. It's just really hard to focus for this long. So he had a black foot. People said to amputate it. They wanted to cut off his foot, Wim Hof's foot, and he said, forget it. So he took some fatty cream and he put the cream onto his foot, and then he massaged it and breathed into it. And several weeks later, the black stuff around it came off, and underneath, his foot is, it's just healed it. And now imagine, normally they would cut this off. You can heal yourself. Now the question is, why cannot everyone do this? Why cannot everyone do this? Well, because nobody teaches this. I mean, not truly. Who really teaches it? You see what I'm saying? So the Gita doesn't teach you this. Life does. Your intuition does. And that's the truth. And you can only have a good intuition if you make experiences. I cook intuitively. And sometimes I just don't buy things. I just use what I have. So that I also don't live too much in the fear of, oh, I'm gonna run out of food. Because that's not a good way of living. So I simply have to practice patience, but also perseverance. So you want people to be friends, like in the story of the Bhagavad Gita? Well, then do your work. First, befriend yourself. Know what you want. Otherwise, who are you gonna guide? Because now Arjuna is supposed to guide them. Well, what? Is he gonna run away or lead them into war? So he's then inadequate to lead anyone because he doesn't know what his direction is. And so he asks phony people that think they're God or something. And that truly is what I believe. That truly is what I believe. And so you simply gotta find yourself in this. Which is why, I never gave up. But in some ways I gave in. And said, hey, I'm just gonna continue with this. And outside it looks like it's gonna rain. Yeah. Because that's what we really need. Like a really proper thunderstorm. So maybe on the next hike that I'm gonna do, it's gonna be really blistering sun. Because that I also like once in a while. But this area is supposed to be really, really moist. And I'm reminding people of this. Right? So if people treat you special and you don't understand why, then start building yourself up. This is acceptance. You're a ray of light, take responsibility. That's what I'm saying. Don't lead people into war. Focus on your own development, because I had no teacher, so I went into nature. There was nobody that taught me, like really took me and said, okay, I had people that told me stuff along the way, but they never lived it. And I simply started to do it. There were people that told me that some people, they go into nature, they do like circles, and then he even drew it. He said, this is the city. You go for long hikes, you come back to the city, and then you carry all of this burden and stuff. You carry it through nature, you cleanse yourself, and you come back to the city. It's the guy who I believe to be a drug dealer, but he still taught me this, and that helped me along my way, but I couldn't keep clinging to him. But he also didn't come to me and say, hey, it's better if you do your own thing. He never said that. So I had to find something where I could channel this energy into. So I could support myself. Otherwise, this would have not worked. I think you understand this to the degree that you can understand it, but you're probably lacking the experience. Well, do what you want, man. It's not just what you want. Ask, what can I do? What am I supposed to do? But really, you have to want to know. It's no good to sit around at home and ask this. You probably have to go. I hiked barefoot when I received my visions. I generally did not receive visions just like this. When I received the vision of I'm gonna cycle to Amsterdam. I did rapé in this park. It's more like a small forest area. At night I did rapé and I asked into life, how am I gonna get to the Netherlands? And then a bicycle cycled past and I realized, oh, I think I'm gonna cycle. And then I simply prepared myself. Then I cycled for 170 kilometers and then I took the train. So I cycled into the Netherlands and then I took the train. And then I stayed there for 6 or 7 weeks and then I got thrown out and then I came back here and then suddenly this crazy journey started and I started producing all this content. I mean, I had already started with the podcast and I had already started with YouTube, but from that day on it changed and I made a video called An Artist Was Born. Something in me just changed while I was in Amsterdam. And then I came back here and I was for weeks, months, I was just creating content like mad. I was doing nothing else but sketches, working my ass off, just going completely nuts. Yeah. So I've gotten better, but I still need to eat. Okay, this tea contains also, I'm gonna read chapter 17 now. Just want to take the chance to tell you that there's so much you can do, and that in your own way. And this is the beauty about it, because you can really figure yourself out, and it doesn't matter whether you work in a supermarket. It doesn't matter what you do. Because even in a supermarket you could avoid being touched, right? I'm just saying. And then you go back home, you just do your stuff. Maybe you start painting or drawing, but maybe you like working in a supermarket. Okay, but how about in 40 years? Because supermarkets are also changing. You're gonna be replaced by some automatic thing. So maybe what you could do is you start doing, if you like really selling foods or something. I mean, you could do this. You could work hard to have your own shop at some point. Just a small vegetable shop. You could even work hard. So, okay, you need money to buy land. So you start being creative. Maybe you can turn this into a business at some point. If you start being really good, then this becomes your trade. I trade in information about how to transform your own depression. And there's a video on YouTube and on odyssey.com. It's also a story that is probably in Crazy Wisdom 1 or something. How is it called? Something with the potential of your depression. Yeah, I'm about to start. But you know already, 40 minutes. But I said it. It says it in the description. This is the official YouTube channel to my podcast. Cannot help that. I am the way that I am. Simply have to okay, I'm just gonna check this. I just find this much more important than reading the Bhagavad Gita. It says 3. So yeah, sometimes at some points people have asked me if I could do something for them, like build them a website. And I said, no, I cannot do this. Well, they asked me if I wanted beer first. At that time, I still drank beer. I drank the beer and then came their proposal. So they wanted to get me drunk so I would agree on doing this for them, but I didn't do it. So they asked me if I could, unleashing the potential of your depression. That's it. They asked me if I could do this, and I said that I make content for people that feel suicidal, that have a death wish, and I guide them to transform this. That's my job. Because I know how this feels like. This is what I can relate to. And so I gave him advice. I said, well, what you have to do is you look online for people who make websites and then look at their templates or at the websites they have made, and then you contact this and they make you a website. Because I cannot make a website for something I don't think is really necessary. But I made basically 2 websites for myself, but I used a template. So I went into the HTML code and just changed the colors and stuff. But I used a template that I found online. And then you just change the colors, the background, maybe even the writing, the text. Yeah, and then you create a website. It doesn't have to be the best website, but it works. Okay, chapter 17. Arjuna speaketh. Okay, I just have to cherish the moment where I know, okay, I can soon render these videos. Bam, bam, badam, bam, bam. Bam, bam, badam, bam. If men forsake the holy ordinance, heedless of shastras, yet keep faith at heart and worship. Worship by living. Yeah, by striving for balance. Not worshipping any kind of a guy. I mean, you can say, let's say, hey, I don't know, but this Christopher guy, Barbarian, Lunatic, whatever, I kind of like what he did. I like the way his mind works. But you don't sit around worshipping me. You just look for, yeah, okay, but he says, he just did what he did because he felt like doing it. What do I feel like doing? And then it's not random. It's like, oh wow, this is something I carried in myself until the point where I was ready. You see it? You see it? You cannot get access to your true heart's desire unless you really want to know. And for that, you gotta work with your fear. Okay. And worship, what shall be the state of those, great Krishna? Sattva and Rajas, Tamas say. He makes Krishna speak. That's why you shouldn't answer everyone's question. You should guide them to answer them by themselves. Because a lot of answers to questions can then be misused. So if somebody comes and keeps asking you questions, you just have to get them to answer these questions on their own. Just say, hey, it's really specific. You cannot you cannot generalize anything. Just figure it out for yourself, man. Because he would just use the information for something. Okay, Krishna speaketh, threefold the faith is of mankind, and springs from those 3 qualities, becoming true or passion-stained or dark. You see? You see? True or passion-stained or dark makes no sense. Because if you see something as dark, then it's still true. If you see something as passion-stained, then it's still true. And truth can be dark. You cannot say truth is light. So it just makes no sense. This is just play on words. True or passion-stained or dark. No. This is not the way it is. Because the way we understand truth is everything together. That's just the way it is. Aha, okay. But sometimes you have to look hard to understand the way it is because it's hidden. You know, people don't want you to know. It's like the mayor doesn't want you to know that he cheated on his wife with one of his students and then became mayor. That's what it is here, right? But he doesn't want you to know. Of course he doesn't want you to know. Why would he want you to know this? But I know it. So I make it a point to highlight it when I feel like it's necessary. Because people shouldn't run away from, you know, that's what I did to have more power. He was already the director of a school. But he wanted more power. Yeah, and now he's the mayor. What next, president? Just go hiking for nature, man. It's very, very clear to me that this is a much better path. The faith of each believer, Indian prince, conforms itself to what he truly is. Where thou shalt see a worshipper, that one to what he worship lives is simile. Such as the shrine, so is the votary. The soothfast souls, his word, adore true gods. Yeah, so not you apparently. The souls obeying Rajas worship Rakshasas or Yakshas. And the men of darkness pray to Pretas and to Bhutas. Yeah, or maybe not. Maybe you're so much in darkness that you're actually praying for the light. And maybe it will come one day. Ye and those who practice bitter penance, not enjoined by rightful rule. Yeah, and what is leftful rule is again an imbalance. Penance which hath its root in self-sufficient, proud hypocrisies. Whatever, man. I think you have to be self-sufficient in all kinds of ways. You can be all this spiritual, whatever guy, but I also, you know, self-sufficient. If I suffice for myself, then that's a good thing, isn't it? Those men, passion beset, violent, wild, torturing, the witless ones. Again, you need a lot of wit to survive times of darkness. My elements shut in fair company within their flesh. Nay, me myself, present within the flesh, know them to devils devoted, not to heaven. For like as foods are threefold for mankind in nourishing, so is their threefold way of worship, abstinence and almsgiving. Yeah, I don't believe in this walking around giving money to people. Hear this of me, there is a food which brings forth substance, strength and health, and joy to live, being well seasoned. Yeah, okay, I really don't care. I think I've already said everything. Thus with rites, a sacrifice not for rewardment made, blah blah blah. Worship of gods, meriting worship. You know, people always act like, you know, you do something. You know, what he says here. It's just not anything I can agree to. Thus with rites, a sacrifice not for rewardment made, offered in rightful wise. Why would you sacrifice something if you're not looking for some kind of a reward? What funnels the action? I mean, you're making a sacrifice because you believe to be sacrificing this to some god or something. So you want better health for your family. That's a reward. You see what I'm saying? It makes no sense. It's phony all the way. This entire scripture is just phony bullshit. This guy was not a teacher. Absolutely not a teacher. And that's the truth. No man does anything without also thinking a little bit of himself. You want to do good, you run around, try to help people. So your reward is then knowing you've done good. Yeah, otherwise why would you do it? You do it for food? Yeah, that's your reward. What else would you do it for? Yeah, for health, for your family? Okay, that's your reward. A sacrifice not for rewardment. That's the only reason why we do anything at all. If you want to get punished, you behave in such a way. And then you get punished, then that's your reward. If you don't want to be punished anymore, well, then you stop doing what gets you punished. Okay, you see, it's just disgusting. I don't like this. Yeah, okay, everything that is said here is just the same bullshit all over again. It's completely unnecessary to read this. Nobody needs to know anything about this other than it's really phony. But until you could, let's say you go around now. You say, hey, I've listened to him dump on the Gita, and now you want to hold your ground about people, against people that say the Gita is good, right? Now you want to find a victim and see if it works. But you couldn't hold your ground because you haven't done what I did. Right? You have to really understand the essence of balance to know if something is phony. You cannot just get this by listening to this. You see what I'm saying? I went for years slacklining, understanding balance, figuring out what is balanced, what is imbalanced. For years. How do you want to compete with me, my friend? So now you want to do what again? You want to take what I said here and then go and have a tussle with someone else? It's pointless, because I didn't stand around debating with people about what I found. I just simply said, this is the way I see it. And I have really trained balance and communication. And you just want to hear what I had to say and then run off with this and act almighty and powerful? It just doesn't work like this, my friend. It really doesn't work like this, my friend. And that's the great thing. But you could still... Could you do damage with what I have given you here? Well, not really. Because in the end it's just gonna damage yourself. Because you're gonna live in this fake belief that listening to this would bring you anywhere. No, you have to really hold your planks. And then you shouldn't do anything just because you want to win. You just want balance in your own life. And that makes you way less anxious. Because, it's not here, I'm not here for winning, I just want to live. I just want to have a meal tomorrow. Okay, the gift lovingly given, when one shall say, okay, I don't care. Here ends chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita. I'm just gonna end this chapter and then do one more recording for chapter 18. The Book of Religion by the Threefold Kinds of Faith. Which is just bullshit. Okay. He talks about oneness, but everything he says is literally separation. He never brings these sides together. He never says there's light in the dark and there's dark in the light. And if he says it, then he renounces it on a later stage. So in the end, he usually comes back to it's just me, blah, blah, blah. And that's just what I believe. Okay? think this was a good way to end this. Okay, cheers.